March Madness? I have no idea what you're talking about. Did you mean Mako Madness? Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. And today we are going to be playing Old Greasy's Mako Madness list. Although I'm going to be giving it a little bit of a facelift. I think there was an issue in deck construction that hopefully I resolved. So the idea is really cool. So Marauding Mako is a very strong Magic the Gathering card. It is a card that is going to scale up every single time you discard one or more cards. And you are going to put that many +1/+1 counters on this creature. So when you combine it with cards like Faithless Looting and Burning Inquiry, you can scale this up. And unlike the other versions of this card that already exist, this is a permanent buff, not a temporary buff. So this original build is looking to get in for some early game damage with these aggressive creatures and hopefully pair it with Hollow One. And if you drop a shark on turn one, a shark pirate at that on turn one, follow it up with Burning Inquiry, draw 3, discard 3, and put 3 +1/+1 counters on it, you're already attacking for 4, having done nothing else. And then maybe you cast a free Hollow One, 2 if you're lucky, and hopefully the game ends very quickly after that. Now, my big issue with this deck is that it is going into a second color here, only for Orcish Bowmasters. Now, Orcish Bowmasters is obviously an incredibly powerful card. Some people even say that it should be banned in Legacy. I'm not one of those people, but I understand the sentiment. But my issue with that is that the only card that Orcish Bowmasters has synergy with in the entire deck is Burning Inquiry. And unless you are going to play something else that synergizes with this, I don't really know that it makes sense to go into another color, and I think there's something better to do with your mana base. More on that in a second. There are also some slots in the deck that I feel like are not strong enough. So, for example, Lion's Eye Diamond allows you to flashback Faithless Looting, and technically could allow you to discard your hand if you needed to grow one of these things in a pinch. But I did not feel like that synergized well with Hollow One, which is one of the big payoff cards of the deck. It does work really well with Ox of Agonas, but there's only 2 copies of that. And similarly, I was not overly sold on Anger. You can high roll with it, and then there's other times where you draw a 4-mana 2/2 haste, and I don't necessarily know that that's where you need to be. I actually thought that the deck should be an Ancient Tomb deck. Once you are past casting your initial 1-drop red creatures, you don't have too much you don't have very much to do with your mana. And Fable of the Mirrorbreaker is another absolutely fantastic thing to do that synergizes with the discard-based themes here. And I think Detective's Phoenix is probably better than Ox of Agonas. The Ox has really, really high upside, but I think the Detective's Phoenix is just more consistent. Playing it as a 2/2 flying haste, that's kind of whatever. But bestowing it and giving evasion to your shark, a flying shark pirate, now you've got my attention, or evasion to your Hollow One feels like a really big deal. And I think you can get your haste from Arena of Glory rather than Anger and put just a tiny bit more pressure on that mana base. And one of the biggest things that I wanted to be able to do actually was just throw a Hollow One at someone's face. That sounded very fun to me. Just like you're used to doing in a deck like Moonstompy, if you can throw Furies at people's faces, it really makes the damage that you get in the early game matter. Now, here's the biggest thing that I don't know without playing the deck. And that's what I should do with these 4 slots right here. I have leaned into making the 4-drops and the Hollow Ones better by trying out Goblin Lore. But I don't know if these slots should be Goblin Lore or Street Wraith for free cycling and deck thinning, or if it should be more copies of creatures such as Inti. I absolutely do not have a feel for that without playing some bonus games here. And then the sideboard, just feels good. We have our necessary and proper 4 copies of Leyline of the Void, as we have put into pretty much every deck that I have played. Insert Oops All Spells talk. We've got Blood Moons for our Eldrazi and our various greedy decks. We've got a few things for assorted combo decks and blue decks, and then a pile of Furies that we can swap out for the Goblin Lores when we need to answer things like Orcish Bowmaster. That might be a pain in the butt for our deck. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into some matches here. Folks, we are seeing spoilers and previews for Tarkir Dragonstorm absolutely all over the place. The set looks really, really powerful. If you need some cards, please consider checking out my sponsor, toamagic.com. Promo code will save you 5% on your order, and you are going to want the cards from these sets. They are going to be very relevant in Eternal formats. Set is good. So, good cards from a good store. Let's battle. All right. Opening hand looks to be pretty solid here. No! Oh wait, I have 2 sharks. This is less bad than I thought. I want to play shark into a couple of looting cards and go ham. Notably, if we are playing against Blue-Black Reanimator, it is possible that we accidentally loot a giant creature into their graveyard by playing things like Burning Inquiry, but we're just going to ignore the fact that that could happen today. Opponent has gotten rid of my Burning Inquiry. They don't want to expose themselves to that degree of variance with whatever it is that they are doing. And, oh buddy, we are going to be capable of putting some +1/+1 counters onto these sharks. Cool thing about playing this deck is I can largely F6 my opponent's turns. Whatever happens, happens. Bowmaster. Objectively, the correct play is probably play Faithless Looting and hope that it works out, and just, we largely concede the game to Orcish Bowmasters, which is why there's 4 copies of Fury in the sideboard. Ho-ho! So these cost 4 less, but unfortunately I missed out on land drops, which is devastating. Oh wow, that's bad. I don't have my lands to bridge me to Fable either. Alright, we will discard some of our more expensive stuff here, and get in there for 3. The difference between Faithless Looting and Burning Inquiry there was absolutely fucking insane. We are getting a Brainstorm now. Opponent's at 15, and then they're presumably going to fetch a Surveil land at end of turn. Yep. And they like their card. And now we kind of see if we're dead. Entomb plus Reanimate can happen, and this deck is not beating something like an Archon of Cruelty that comes down this early. Okay, we've dodged. They just had another Swamp. Another Faithless Looting is great. We're still in that same position where we are quite bad versus Orcish Bowmasters. But again, I think we are largely just ignoring the existence of that card. And if it happens, it happens. Okay, this is much better. So now I can play a Hollow One for 1 mana in my second main phase. I'm going to get rid of the Adepts. So let's go ahead and go to Punchies here. This is hitting for a whopping 5 damage. Boo! Opponent hates fun. I'm going to fetch. I'm just going to pick up a basic, obviously. Now, I could replay the Shark and play Goblin Lore next turn, or I can just play a 4/4. I'm going to play the 4/4, because if I hit more land and I just get to play Broadside, attack for 6, and then throw for 7, my opponent is probably dead, assuming that they do something like a fetch land or a Force of Will. Never mind. So if my opponent puts this into play, I could, in theory, play Broadside, throw Hollow One at it, and be okay. But as soon as there's Force of Will backup on this, or even Daze backup on this, I can't really win anymore. Oh, cool. They did not take Daze. So I am still live to potentially beat this, but then there will be a Reanimated graveyard still. In hand still. So nothing that I have in hand here probably wins. I could play double Shark and try to Goblin Lore, put a total of 6 +1/+1 counters on the Sharks, and try to stay competitive with the Atraxa. That is probably my line. But I think once my opponent connects with this once, it's probably over. All right, both resolve. I'll pass the turn here. Yeah, take your 6 life. And now a little selection. As soon as this is backed by Force of Will, I just cannot win anymore. Fetch to clear. Cycle Troll. Animate Troll? No, Thoughtseize me. So now I probably lose Goblin Lore. Yeah. That still does trigger these. It is discarding. So that's the good news. Oh, you just get a Murktide Regent too? Fantastic. Alright. Anyway, it's not really okay that, like, you get to be this incredible tempo control deck while also being I have a low commitment finish. That is very hard for fair decks to deal with. Anyway, in come the playset of Leyline of the Voids. And now we have to decide how much we want to play around Orcish Bowmasters versus how much we want to play around things like Murktide Regent. My Lightning Bolts don't really matter here. Those are going to become the Leyline of the Voids. I don't think I want to play Fury, despite the fact that I potentially care about Orcish Bowmasters a lot, and I'm getting rid of my Lightning Bolts. I think we just straight up ignore that card. It is going to be a savage beating against us every time. So I think we just hope that our opponent does not have it and try to get established before that happens. I think Bolt is pretty bad against most of the things my opponent is doing, and I think playing Fury, turning it into a reanimation target for my opponent, is very scary. So then it just becomes, do I want outs to something like Murktide Regent? The Lightning Bolts and even the Furies probably don't kill my opponent's Goyfs. I think I'm going to run this. This is probably fine, although there is an insane degree of variance that happens in the first turn when I cast Burning Inquiry. If I cast Burning Inquiry and do not discard my Hollow One, my hand is fantastic. So, pay 3 life. Burning Inquiry. Oh, yeah. Oh, baby. This is why you play a deck that looks like this one. That's the high rolling right there. Note that this still will lose to Entomb Reanimate sort of stuff. Ooh. That's neat. So I will swing in for my 8, put my opponent to 12. Looting makes Hollow One cost 1 with no massive variance. I think I am into that. So let's go bam, bam, take 3 more. I drop another Hollow One into play. This is lethal next turn in theory. All right, let's see if we lose to Entomb. Oh, hey, it's Entomb. It's Atraxa. Oh, holy shit, they didn't have it. Cool. That was incredibly lucky. All right, same plan, but we're on the draw. Okay, my hand has a Leyline of the Void and can do Flameblade, Adept, Burning Inquiry. That's fine. I would prefer a Shark. I would prefer a Hollow One, but I don't think I can reject a Leyline of the Void opener. Like we saw last game, how I was doing something incredibly powerful, but it just would not matter that I put 12 power in play by turn 2 if my opponent reanimated an Atraxa. Note that Orcish Bowmasters is still very, very scary. Douthie Voidwalker. That's definitely awkward for me, because stuff can go under here, but YOLO? I think I play Basic Mountain first. My Detective Phoenix style stuff is not happening now. Alright, opponent just says no. I think it is still worth playing a Faithless Looting afterwards. Whoa, those cards suck. You can go away and going to get rid of 1 true land. Ancient Tomb? Maybe Ancient Tomb. We get a little bigger, but the difference between the Adept and the Shark here is massive. We get in 3 points of damage. And we're going to be cracking each other back, and I think my opponent just has the better clock here. Well, yeah. Do I want to play around a Fluster, or do I just want to have more cards in hand so that if I draw a Hollow One, I have a better chance at keeping it? I think I want to have a better chance at keeping a Hollow One. Ooh. Okay. Casting a Faithless Looting this turn is now not the best. If I do it, I might want to play out Scalding Tarn first, so that if I hit Hollow One... Well, I guess I don't have to make that decision, right? I can keep land Hollow One afterwards. It's not a random one. Okay. I can keep a Shark and play it this turn and then hope the top of the deck is kind. All right. We'll grab a basic mountain to do that. But this is where we see the Douthie Voidwalker doing some work. In a normal game, I would have 2 turns worth of Faithless Lootings to do now, so that I could attack for 3, followed by attack for 5, but that's not happening here. I'm at 13. This is not what I am looking for at this stage. If we rip something reasonable off the top in the future, like this is fine. But my opponent is going to race our aggro deck with just Douthie Voidwalker, which is not great. My opponent has had a lot of interaction. Again, they're very good at playing this tempo game. Okay, I am in amazing shape if this resolves. I roll. All right, that's annoying. Okay, did not keep my shark. Would I like to looting for more damage? I think I would. This is now the 3rd Faithless Looting that Douthie Voidwalker has eaten. Sure. I want to loot away this land, though, so I am not wanting to play that actively. Send in for 4. Anyway, do you notice how little my targeted hate is doing against the Reanimator deck? Arena of Glory is interesting, but I believe I am just dead to my opponent drawing a land, because I will get hit for 3 and then get hit for 6. I'm going to play this land. If Hasty Hollow One was guaranteed lethal, I would just play Mountain instead, but it's just not. Yeah, so I am dead on board. I need to kill my opponent this turn, which is certainly possible. I can attack for 3 and then throw something. So Broadside, we don't need to give it haste with Arena of Glory. Opponent goes to 5. Now, I can't kill them. I can hit them for 3, which isn't going to stop them from playing Brazen Borrower. So I need to kill Douthie Voidwalker. And then Brazen Borrower can hit me to 1, and I need a live top deck next turn. Any 1-drop creature does it, though, because I need 2 points of damage. So just literally anything that I can throw at my opponent is fine. 1. That'll do. I have no graveyard. This has haste innately. So, do you have yet another counter spell or removal spell? As soon as I go to the combat step and get to attack, I win. Hey, I win. Because now I get to throw with Broadside. Well, we won, but that was not enjoyable. Not because of my deck, but because I am very burnt out of playing against this Reanimator deck that has survived banwave after banwave. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, which is just the best place to host your online deck lists, and I don't think it's close. I think it's wonderfully organized, and you can have a great system of folders so that you can go through, separate your decks by whatever you want. I separate mine by format. I have just a few legacy decks, and Moxfield is able to keep track of all the decks that even someone like me makes, so please consider checking them out. I don't think my hand does anything. I can play the Shark on turn 1, but I don't have any discard synergies, so like I could play a 1/1 into a 2/2 haster. That doesn't feel like playing Legacy to me. This will probably be fine. We'll keep this and get rid of a land, I think. Big power disparity between the Adept and the Shark, though. I'm going to play this on turn 1 here. And it's very possible that I just end up casting a Broadside on turn 2, rather than trying to do something more broken with Burning Inquiry immediately. We might need to remove a creature. And I am correct. Ooh, what about Lightning Bolt? Is Bolt on Painter into Burning Inquiry better? Burning Inquiry has some pretty high upside of finding a hollow one. I might just want to give up on doing anything cool with Flameblade Adept and just play Broadside control game for a little while. I think we have to ignore the sexy thing that we are capable of doing. Both of these creatures have menace, so my attack is safe. The Burning Inquiry style cards are going to have some problems in this matchup because my opponent is going to have things like Goblin Welders and Goblin Engineers. Menace. They figured it out. Broadside, target Painter, throw, goodbye Painter. We're not the best at dealing with Urza's Saga, generally. Oh, no further land drop. Well, let's just ignore everything that I was going to say. Oh, shit. So I'm now in this really weird position where if I Burning Inquiry, I potentially Burning Inquiry my opponent directly into mana. So, we're going to hold down the fort and attack for 2. And I'll just hold up, lightning bolting my opponent to the face multiple times. Boo! Boo! Note that Broadside cannot throw itself. It does say another. So we've got the floating mana here. Soulguide Lantern's actually kind of annoying, but my opponent is probably going to cycle it immediately. They just want cards. Yeah, they don't have land drops. This game's weird all of a sudden. I can double lightning bolt my opponent's face, but that's not ending the game. I think I'm just going to hold. Yeah! Yeah, that's what I want to see. Now I can loot away the Burning Inquiries without giving my opponent chances to draw lands. That's great. My boy! Okay, my opponent throws in the towel. It's like very clear what sort of deck I am playing here. I don't think they need to play on for information. Okay, so this is where we want that playset of Furies, right? I want to be able to wipe out my opponent's creatures. I want to be able to play oddly sort of a tempo control role where I whack my opponent with large sharks while furying and broadsiding and lightning bolting their creatures. That probably means that these go. I don't think I want Leyline of the Void for their graveyard-oriented synergies. I don't think I want Blood Moon for Urza Saga. I think we try to play around those things when they happen rather than prevent them. This is, I think, a tough opening hand because I have some nice controlling elements. So for example, I can play a Flameblade Adept, I can pitch cast a Fury, kill some stuff, and then use the Fury body to collect evidence on the Flameblade Adept. But I'm just not convinced that that is actually strong enough. Multiple broadsides. Keep a Reno. Do I need the second red land? I don't think so. It's nice, but I think we are going to play a very similar game as last game, where I play out a Flameblade Adept, I play a broadside, I throw it at a creature, and then we have another broadside, and all of a sudden our opponent dies. There is a Fable. Flameblade Adept is just a body again. Thank you for your service, Flameblade Adept. So this is 3 points of damage. Like before, we'll take out the creature. I unfortunately don't have further bodies to throw at broadside, to throw with broadside. Ooh, opponent largely likes their cards. That's not great for me. So much value. And a grindstone. Okay, things are getting scary. Ignore the scary stuff? I think I just ignore the scary stuff and try to kill my opponent. So yeah, send in for 4. Opponent goes to 9. Target face, I think. Throw Detective's Phoenix. Opponent is at 4. If they tap Ancient Tomb, they die to Lightning Bolt. I think that's what I'm hoping for. Otherwise, double bolt kills them, double broadside kills them. Battle. Land. Nice. Respond. Bolt face. Note there, I think my opponent punted the game. So, 2 mana, Painter. 1 mana, 2 mana, Treasure Token, activate. I die to that. Or I, at the very least, have to redirect Lightning Bolt at Painter's Servant, which, if my opponent has a red elemental blast type card as their last card, they could interact with that. More generally, even ignoring Lightning Bolt, I think taking that attack first and getting that bonus treasure token matters. Because if something goes wrong, you can be at 2 higher life, and then I have to have something to follow up broadside. Okay. I think the opening hand is a keep. It has a shark into a Burning Inquiry and potentially a Detective's Phoenix that I can bring back afterwards. But boy, the hand is very reliant on Burning Inquiry working. So for example, if the Burning Inquiry is dazed, my entire game falls apart and I pretty much lose the game on the spot. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Don't do it. Okay. Do I want to guarantee my next land at the cost of 3 life? and at the cost of maybe not playing Ancient Tomb this turn. I think I do. So let's Burning Inquiry. Ooh. Okay, we've got our Detective's Phoenix in the yard. My hand does nothing now. Let's go ahead and loot and try to fix that. We can find a hollow one here, and it's really big game. No, we have fully missed. We'll discard Thundering Falls and Faithless Looting, so I can play a Broadside next turn. We kind of hit the fail rate of our deck there. One hollow one, and we are so good with Detective's Phoenix as follow-up. Okay. The opponent is getting a Bowmaster back. We've already talked about how that card is very, very, very good against what I am doing here. Is there a world where I want to play Faithless Looting this turn? I'm going to say no. I think I just want to resolve this. I have a Lightning Bolt for a Bowmaster anyway. Whatever exactly this deck is, it is probably going to prey on what I am doing. Okay. So my opponent has a 20/20. Shit. So I can block. I could block multiple times in a row, but I do not see myself winning from this position. So I think I'm just going to concede and not show that trick in case that trick lets me win a future game. So like I could put this on Phoenix, block, then Phoenix is in play. I can block a second time, but I've got nothing beyond that. I don't think that wins me the game, especially with this ticking down and my opponent likely having multiple removal spells as follow-up. Opponent's on a sweet brew of some kind. So if I play Blood Moon, I am hating on probably exactly one thing that their deck does. I am blanking on the name of it, but there's a black 1-mana tutor where you do something like exile some cards and lose some life to fish for a card. Their deck might be sort of a 2-card Monty deck that takes advantage of that sort of stuff. I think the first thing that I want to do is get rid of Goblin Lore, turn that into Fury because my opponent is playing Bowmaster. I don't think I want to try to stop Dark Depths with Blood Moon. I certainly won't when I am on the draw. When I'm on the play, it's more questionable. My opponent is going to have some number of MDFCs that Blood Moon turns into mountains. They're going to have some number of Ancient Tombs, but they are also, I don't know, ballpark going to have 5 to 10 basic swamps probably. So it's not like I am super likely to knock them off of colors. I think my plan versus Dark Depths is kill them first, which won't always work. So on turn 2, I play Faithless Looting, draw 2, discard 2, hollow ones cost 1. I play both of them with Ancient Tomb. That is fine. So the question is, do I want to Thundering Falls on 1 or play a threat on 1? It's probably worth 5 damage over the course of a game. Let's say that's worth it. And if this baits out a removal spell so that a hollow one lives, cool. It's actually scariest for me if my opponent just has fast mana this turn and could Bowmaster on turn 1. Douthie Voidwalker. Okay. So my cards are going under the Douthie. I could cast a second Faithless Looting here to make the hollow ones free, actually. Is that better than taking 2 off Ancient Tomb and I just play Mountain as my land? Maybe. Let's say it is. And let's just always yield to that. It's very silly if I hit another hollow one, which I did not. I think I will keep the Fable and just ditch the lands and assume that I'll find another land to cast that at some point. Alright, so we get big. Thought I was going to get 5 damage over this over the course of a game. I got 5 damage in a single turn instead. My opponent's at 15, facing down 9-ish power, emphasis on ish. Alright, there's Dark Depths. I don't think I have anything cool in exile here. Yeah, I really don't. It is a mutated cultist. Okay. I don't think I am dealing lethal damage next turn. Yeah, I can cast a Fable of the Mirror Breaker, but I am just dead to this 20/20. This would have come down before I could have Blood Mooned anyway. Alright, we are not good against Merit Lage. Problem noted. Okay. If I draw a land, this hand is bananas. And if I don't, this hand does nothing. I don't think we take that gamble. This plays Broadside or Fable on turn 2, probably. Probably Fable. This is probably turn 2 Fable. Then I do some looting, get a hollow 1 for 1 mana, follow up with Broadside as well. Okay, I like this. I think I get rid of the Goblin Lore. I could keep Goblin Lore and do Goblin Lore, maybe Hollow 1 on turn 2, but I think that has a higher degree of variance. So I think we just give up the high variance but cool thing we could do to play a more consistent game. The hands that this deck is generating are very different from each other. Like, these Marauding Mako opening hands are very scary. They scale up quickly. The Hollow 1 hands are high variance but very strong. And then we have these slower but highly consistent, like Moon Stompy style hands. Do I want that? I do not think so. Yeah, it's fine if I get Wastelanded. Otherwise, it's not particularly good. If I get Wastelanded, I just play tapped Arena of Glory and move on with my life, though. What did my opponent mulligan to? My opponent mulligan to 5. You gonna oops me? Oh, it's a Mox Diamond. Well, we're bad against Marauding. We figured that out already. My opponent has Life from the Loam for Tabernacle. Thanks, I hate it. I need to end this game. My opponent's Life from the Loam is going to be very strong. Tabernacle is going to be good against me. Wasteland is going to be incredible against me with Tabernacle. I am playing out this Goblin Shaman so that it can generate treasures. The other upside of Fable is obviously great. Fuck! It's Dark Depths already. Help. Please don't Tabernacle me this turn. I think if my opponent Tabernacles me, I let my Goblin Shaman token die. Okay, they're just getting the Dark Depths and playing the Dark Depths. Okay, cool. That's very good for me. All right. So I have 3 mana for Broadside. Hollow 1 will cost 1 mana. Oh, fuck, I have to exert to give it haste. Shit. I will have... Oh, wait. What if I exert with Thundering Falls? So that gives me 4 total mana. Yeah, okay, that works. It's fine. So let's say yes. I get rid of my sharks. Oh, fuck. Am I... Okay, so 1 Hollow 1 is 4, 6, 8 damage, and then another 7. Whereas Hollow 1 could be 10 damage immediately. Still gonna have plenty of mana to pay for my shit. Okay. Yeah, this is fine. So let's exert this. I have to use 1 red for Broadside. Then use 1 red with haste for Hollow 1. I'll send in with everything. I'll make my treasure. Opponent is at 12. I am just going to take guaranteed 7 damage immediately. I'm going to take 1 body off the board, so Tabernacle matters less. And then I can cast this. I have 3 mana to pay for all of my creatures next turn. And if I get Wastelanded and Tabernacled somehow, I still will have 1 land that untaps. I play for Broadside. This turns into a creature. I have Menace through a blocker, and I have Lethal. Ugh. So opponent is in the tank about whether or not they are dredging with Life from the Loam. Without knowing their deck list, I don't know what their exact outs are, but I'm guessing their outs involve putting the card Exploration into play. Okay, opponent tanked for a minute and then conceded. So I probably want to play Blood Moon. Lightning Bolt might actually be the thing that goes here. So Lightning Bolt, more or less, is only going to the face, which can be useful if I am trying to race a Marauding, but I don't know that it's fantastic overall. So I think Lightning Bolt and Goblin Lore are both medium. The stuff that makes my opponent draw in the discard is a little awkward in the face of Life from the Loam specifically. I might want to consider Leyline of the Void. The Graveyard Hate is medium versus lands. Many years ago, it used to be incredibly strong, but now lands just has more ways to end a game without using the graveyard. There's things like Malevolent Rumble for selection. There's things like Urza's Saga that can just singularly win. It's not like Life from the Loam is the only thing that matters. Flameblade Adept is also considerably worse versus presumably multiple copies of Maze of Ith. I'm gonna play both Leyline and Blood Moon and just maximize the number of ways that I can steal a free win. But if my opponent guesses that I'm going to be on Blood Moon and maybe Leyline and preemptively boards in Force of Vigor. Playing both of these at the same time does make Force of Vigor better against me, and Force of Vigor has quite a few targets if I board in this way. I like this hand quite a bit. We get to hate on the Life from the Loam stuff while playing an aggressive threat, and we have a Detective's Phoenix to bring back afterwards. This is very reasonable. Opponent gets a little selection, getting a Yavimaya. And they have one of their best openers with Exploration. They are choosing to play Otawara here, which would be an out to Leyline of the Void. They are just ramping. So I'm going to lead on my basic mountain and put my threat into play. Part of me wonders if I should cast Burning Inquiry to try to disrupt the 2 remaining cards in my opponent's hand. Because, like, the stuff they discard goes away forever. And they got rid of an Otawara. Alright, opponent is chilling, which is suspicious. I have 3 lands in hand currently. I could guarantee a land drop. I wonder if I want to guarantee Arena of Glory so that if I draw a hollow one, I can just do that. But it's a wastelandable land, so there's that. I think I am not going to guarantee the land drop and just maximize my chances of keeping a hollow one if I draw one. We got rid of my opponent's Life from the Loam, which is unfortunate. And I missed hollow one. But am I good with bestowing this? I think so. I need to collect evidence 6, which will be 2 cards. Now I get to smack with a 6/4 creature, which is pretty good. I have a Sundering Eruption for if my opponent finds a Maze of Ith. And this creature has now scaled permanently with the Detective's Phoenix, so this is not that bad. Okay, so we're going to lose Arena of Glory. Do I want to just Sundering Eruption Urza Saga? That is probably a good use of my turn. Opponent's at 11. This can be awkward in the face of Crop Rotation as my opponent's final card. It is not. I now have 6 evidence in graveyard. So I could bestow another Detective's Phoenix if it seems like it is correct to do so. That's a shark. I might just cycle that for some burst damage here. Like cycle that, put another Phoenix on this, attack for 6, have lethal the following turn. Seems fine. Oh, I pick up a new land. That's actually a big deal, right? Now I cast this with bestow on the other one. 3 and 6. This is why we play Sundering Eruption, in case you were wondering. So now I have 7 damage, followed by lethal next turn. We're dead to Crop Rotation. Boseiju. Don't have enough to... because I have 3... or no, I couldn't even count that. I have 1 in graveyard. All Thundering Falls. I do not need Ancient Tomb. That saved my opponent a lot of life. The opponent's at 7. What are you paying costs on? Oh, I see. No, I respect the hustle over there. So they are facing down 4 power immediately, and if I get more stuff in graveyard, I can do cool things. That is a mountain. That is not what I am looking for. Hopefully that doesn't matter. Opponent's at 3. I don't think I play this card, because I could hold it for a Faithless Looting style effect that I draw next turn. Ice counters go down. Okay. Old Greasy. Generally speaking, what we're doing here is really working. Pirate Shark doot 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 doot. Opening hand is solid, assuming that Goblin lore works. My opponent has mulligan to 5. Hopefully we don't just eat oops all spells on turn 1 and be sad about our life. Okay, no, we will have to be sad about our life on turn 2 when my opponent reanimates something instead. Ooh, this turn is now incredibly tough. I have a very high upside Goblin lore that I can cast immediately. I can turn it into a higher upside Goblin lore next turn at the cost of opening myself up to Orcish Bowmasters. I think I am going to do extremely high upside Goblin lore immediately and do it with Ancient Tomb so I play around Days and just not open myself up to Orcish Bowmasters being nearly as strong. All right, we did not hit some of the highest possible upside plays there. Like we obviously have a colorless floating, so I can't Detective's Phoenix, which requires red. We didn't hit hollow one. But I've made a 4/4 creature that is going to continue to scale up immediately. That's not bad. And since it was Goblin lore specifically, my opponent's graveyard did not grow, which is relevant here. Now, we're in a situation where the mana that my opponent spends on things that are cantripping rather than things that are impacting the board, it's mana that is not well spent. And that was a very fast shuffle there. Ooh, Hollow 1. Literally one card too late. I think I'm into Broadside here. And then a Shark afterwards. So, yeah. This way, this is played around days. Hey, there's the days that I just played around. Now, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I could give this flying. Is that a better use of my mana than playing a Shark? Probably. 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is just so much short-term damage. If my opponent has reanimate style stuff, we might be shutting it off. It's more likely that my opponent is just a tempo deck here, but it's so easy to just throw a Murktide Regent or two in your flex slots. Okay, so how do we want to sideboard? If my opponent is playing tempo, going down on Goblin Lores to dodge Bowmasters is a good idea, and I can play some Pyroblasts for Murktide Regents. I might play a Fury to round things out beyond that, and further hedge against Bowmasters, which is a pretty scary card. I might need more copies of Fury if my opponent is playing tempo specifically. They're fine food for Detective's Phoenix, they're fine with Broadside still. I could go down some copies of Flameblade Adept and play more Furies. I could go down some Fables. Those are relatively dazable and are kind of bad in the mid-game after a Bowmaster comes down. Alright, let's make the called shot that we are playing against tempo. My hollow ones are going to become a little bit worse here now. Hey, my hollow ones that are a little bit worse. This hand, beyond just that, is not particularly good. It doesn't really do anything. This is also not strong. I don't know that I'm going to mulligan it. Like, I will probably keep this, just get rid of the Ancient Tomb, have consistent mana. But we're definitely hoping to do something like Lightning Bolt, a Delver, or a Stalactite Stalker, or something else like that in the early game. I think I am going to go for the immediate bolt on this. If I draw out a counter spell, fantastic. I do. I don't want this to flip and go to 4 loyalty where it does not get lightning bolted. Like, that is quite annoying for me. So, if I bolt this and my opponent brainstorms in response, it's a disaster. But it's also very bad if I bolt this and my opponent dazes after I play Flameblade Adept. So, let's say no to Tamiyo. Fuck. There's the daze that I've just played around. How willing am I to let Tamiyo keep doing its thing? Not very. Alright, here is my 4th card to try and answer Tamiyo. We riot if they brainstorm after this. Alright, good. My hand is terrible at this point. I can do some cool things with the Detective's Phoenix over the course of the game. But this is, generally speaking, pretty unimpressive. Like, just playing a 2/2 haster naturally is not really where you want to be, but I'm not in the position to do anything cool with a hollow one immediately. Again, after we went down on the Goblin Lores and the Fables, the hollow ones become worse. Just cracking the clue. The 3rd land drop, we could get Goifed here, which would be really bad. Yeah, there it is. Well, if I do this, alright. Those cards get discarded. Means that I can cast a hollow one for 1 mana, but this is now a 4/5. I think I am now holding back, hopefully keeping this from attacking. But I think I'm going to get overpowered by this card. Strix, sure. Alright, so my opponent is very likely not doing Reanimator stuff, given everything that we have seen here. Alright, I am going to lose to this Goif if it connects and starts feeding my opponent bonus cards. I am going to set myself up for a blowout from something like a Shoulder's Edict here. My opponent might just be perfectly willing to trade this for both of these bodies, though. Revolt for Fatal Push? Revolt for Fatal Push. Okay. That was bad. This is now a 6-7. I am just fully going to concede the game to that card at this stage. My red removal no longer answers this threat. I think I am good with how I have boarded, but red removal, historically, not great versus the Goyfs. This is fine. Again, though, there is a very large difference between my Pirate Shark openers and my Flameblade Adept openers. See what my opponent does here. They've got plenty of different ways to interact or otherwise make meaningful turn 1 plays. I would love to kill ThrabenU immediately. That said, I don't really think it is correct to kill ThrabenU immediately, despite how annoying ThrabenU is. I can play a Broadside around a Daze next turn, and the Faithless looting decisions are so hard in this deck when you are playing against a Daze deck. Maybe I ignore Daze, potentially let my opponent counter a hollow one, so Broadside is more likely to resolve next turn. But I can just like make it so that Daze doesn't matter for either of them. Okay. Double hollow one. Oh shit. Okay. We'll get rid of Burning Inquiry, Sudden Eruption. One of these will now be Dazeable. I don't think that matters that much. I think I just gotta cast him while I can cast him, and it fucking worked. That's so good. So my opponent's at 16, facing down an exceptionally large amount of power. They probably can't Wasteland me. They probably need to use their mana for their own things here. Is ThrabenU on chump block duty? Yes. Yes. 3, 4, 5 in graveyard. Okay. So I will cast a Broadside. Okay, Force of Will happens. Now there's enough in graveyard that I can go fetch untapped land and bestow this. I might want to bestow onto my worst creature so that I push the most damage with the hollow ones. Like, I don't want to let my opponent block 6 here. I would like them to block 3 instead. So there's 3 and 6. Send them. All right, we're getting some activity over there. That is a fatal push. My opponent takes the other damage. They decided they did not want to block with ThrabenU after not attacking with ThrabenU. Heyo. Is that a 4-1? Yeah, that was a 4-1 with our good old Pirate Shark. What did we call this one? Mako Madness. Alrighty. Overall thoughts on the deck list. Quite powerful. I think that Old Greasy put together a good deck and that I polished it up a bit. I am very happy with my decision to include these 3-drops in the deck and add the Ancient Tomb over the Badlands that we initially saw. I think that worked out very well. I think Goblin Lore was probably the weakest card in the deck, followed by Flameblade Adept. That said, I don't know that I would take this card out, despite the fact that I sideboarded it out every round. It was the weak link, but it did enable very powerful things in my opening hands. And in game 1, that is something that matters. I think if you want to mess around with this shell, these 8 slots have the most wiggle room. Again, in the opener, I talked about how Street Wraith and Inti were things that I was thinking about that could fit those slots. And after seeing these games play out, the 4th Broadside is probably not crazy. If the metagame is a little different, you could consider Fury in the main deck. Fury fueling Detectives Phoenix is pretty hot, and it may be worth doing that in game 1. It could allow you to have some really big bursts where you cast a Burning Inquiry, you put a hollow one into play, you Fury a creature, you then Detectives Phoenix, the hollow one has haste. I did not miss any of the cards that I cut. So the original version had, well, let's just look at it again. So the original version had Anger and Carnage Interpreter and LED. I don't think I would have wanted those cards. You could potentially make an argument for Ox of Agonas, but I think I'm going to stand by what I said, where I think Detectives Phoenix is just a better version of Ox of Agonas in this deck. 8 cards is a lot, whereas Collect Evidence 6 is often 2 cards, since I added more 3-drops into the deck. It is possible that it is correct to play the 4th Sundering Eruption. That was something that I cut when I inserted Arena of Glory. Maybe I'm wrong, and because of Detective's Phoenix, you do want the 4th Sundering Eruption. I was a little worried about Ancient Tomb plus Fetch Lands plus Sundering Eruption being too much self-damage, but if I'm intending on being the beatdown, maybe that self-damage doesn't matter that much. As far as the sideboard goes, felt pretty good. There's some things that I don't really have access to with this sideboard as it is built. So for example, there's no Meltdown or Null Rod style card that hates on artifact decks hard. That might be an oversight. We are potentially stone cold dead to something like an Ensnaring Bridge. That is potentially an oversight. But like, I enjoyed playing this one a lot. This one gets the fill seal of approval. Take this to your F&M, put some counters on Sharks, and have a fantastic rest of the day. And if you need your Sharks, promo code ThrabenU will save you a bit on them. All right, see ya.